Now there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. She had endured much under many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus, and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, for she said, "If I but touch his clothes, I will be made well." Immediately her hemorrhage stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" The woman came in fear and trembling, fell down before him and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." Mark 5.
A miracle is defined as an event that defies the laws of nature, attributed to divine or supernatural intervention. What constitutes a modern-day medical miracle generally entails an unexplainable or sudden recovery against all odds. When what we would call rational or scientific medicine fails on rare occasions, the patient improves, despite predictions to the contrary. At times, this gets chalked up to divine providence. The validity of these medical miracles and the connection between healing and the divine have been contested throughout the history of medicine. To further understand this conflict, we will delve into the world of ancient medicine and analyze various cultures' perspectives on miraculous healings. The ancient world was not a monolith. At any given period, one could expect to find a pluralism of belief systems and cultural practices that coexisted, and at times competed with one another. The medical system was no exception. Magic and folkloric healing practices were one form of medicine that existed alongside what we term today as rational or empirical medicine, and the learned physicians of these eras more often than not would practice a syncretistic fusion of different systems.
Whether people perceived miracles as occurring, as defined as healing in the form of divine intervention, was dependent on the cultural context of their society. In the 5th century BCE, the Greek physician Hippocrates began a school of thought that proposed the basis of disease as stemming from natural biological causes, rather than the supernatural. In this way, he and his followers ushered in a new tradition of medicine. During this period of transition, Greek physicians encountered conflicts between the work of faith healers who used purifications and incantations, and those who practiced the emergent empirical approach to medicine. For example, the notorious sacred disease, now known as epilepsy, was originally believed to be of divine origins. Due to its dramatic symptoms and their lack of understanding, faith healers would promote magical treatments, with the promise that these would eventually lead to a reversal of the disease that was given to them by the gods, in the eyes of Hippocrates.
Following in this tradition, the story of Philoctetes speaks of the lack of intervention. Abandoned by his comrades on their voyage to Troy, he found little solace in his personal religious conviction. Disabled and suffering from his diseased leg, the lonely Philoctetes exclaims, "How can I praise the gods when their ways are so evil?" For him, a miracle in the form of an interceding god never arrived. In the Asclepius testimonies, imagery of Machaon and Podalirius frequently describe them as equal to deathless gods, due to their prowess in healing. Here, we continue to see an emphasis on the capability of humans to heal their own afflictions without the need of divine intervention. The deification of Asclepius is perhaps the closest the texts come to describing divine healing. Revered as a legendary healer, Asclepius' power extends to resurrection, although even Zeus makes sure to limit his powers through a fatal lightning strike, perhaps as commentary on the limits of the physician's role in respect to the almighty gods. Miracles, should they happen, could only be permissible through the divine. A common form of divine healing in the classical world was incubation through the healing temples of both cults of Asclepius and other gods. Complementing existing local shrines, these temples would be advertised as being able to heal where secular medicine cannot. While in some cases, some received healing, many others undoubtedly left disappointed, believing that they themselves were the cause of their own illness, a widespread belief at the time. An example of Asclepius' miraculous healing can be found in the testimonies of Aelius Aristides. As a devout follower of the healing god, Aristides preferred to follow the advice Asclepius gave to him in his dreams rather than listen to physicians. In one such case, Aelius noticed that a tumor was growing on his body. When consulting medical professionals about the growth, they explained that surgery, cauterization, and drugs were necessary for his survival. However, Asclepius commanded his loyal follower to endure and foster the growth of the tumor. Aristides followed the order, enduring the pain caused by the tumor, and, eventually, no one could find which thigh the tumor had been, as they were both unscarred. As a reward for his loyalty, Asclepius cures the man, leaving no trace of the tumor behind. In this context, miraculous healing can occur as a reward for possessing faith.
The growth of Christianity occurred in a cultural landscape framed around Greek standards of medicine. Due to medicine being value neutral, early Christians generally accepted the healing practices of the Greeks. Throughout early Christian history, we find that there existed a spectrum of attitudes regarding the acceptance of medical healing. Often, Christian writers would accept the value of secular medicine, though with some recommendations regarding its use.
Testament, we observe Jesus performing miraculous cures on various people afflicted with maladies ranging from blindness to demonic possession to even death.
Talitha Kumai.
For example, in Mark 9, Jesus encounters a man with a son possessed by an unclean spirit. When asked if he can help, Jesus reassures him with the explanation that all things can be done for the one who believes. With some possible exceptions, Jesus appears to favor healing those who possess sufficient faith, in accordance to the widespread beliefs at the time that one was the reason for one's own illness. However, this form of selective miraculous healing was only one form of medicine existing in a diverse pluralism that included secular medicine.
Similar to early Christianity, Islamic medicine encompassed a diverse melting pot, where secular medicine innovating on Greek tradition existed alongside religious and folkloric medicine. One form of medicine that existed was known as prophetic medicine, a type of traditional healing based on religious authority. This, too, made clear that miraculous healing was not wholly dependent on the divine. The underlying belief that God would provide a cure for every ailment did not mean that people were to remain passive, for they still needed to discover and employ that remedy, indicating a necessary human component. Here, a mixture of Greek empiricism and religious faith-based healing can be observed.
The physician, even though he has his doubts, must always make the patient believe that he will recover, for the state of the body is linked to the state of the mind. Al-Razi.
Some of the elements that led people to believe in the validity of miraculous healing in the ancient world continue to influence belief to this day.
Presently, some televangelists act as modern-day miracle workers, claiming to harness divine powers to heal people's ailments. These televangelists all share mutual traits that contribute to their popularity. These men and women are charismatic speakers as they gather large masses of people into a congregation. Commonly, the attendees are those with disabilities or illnesses for which secular medicine cannot offer a complete cure. Left with seemingly little alternative, these people commit themselves to the speaker's words, in hopes that God, or at least a higher power, will cure them of their ailments. One aspect crucial to the effectiveness of faith healers is their charisma. In the New Testament, Jesus is portrayed as a charismatic individual who obtains the support of many followers throughout his life. Other than performing miraculous acts of healing, Jesus builds his credibility as an important figurehead through his preaching. This is seen in Mark 1:45, where Jesus stayed out in the country, and people came to him from every quarter. Additionally, rather than directly imparting healing on patients, faith healers viewed themselves as conduits between divine and man. Televangelists like Benny Hinn and Reinhard Bonk view themselves as merely channels through which God transmits his power.
In Sirach, the physician is viewed as a connection between God and the patient. Prayer and inner repentance is the basis of the healing. Correct-minded people will be healed, as they will abide by the physician's instructions, while incorrect people will continue to sin and consequently die. God spreads health through the physician, as the physician acts as a conduit between man and the divine. Sirach 38:15 states that, "He who sins against his maker will be defiant towards the physician." Miraculous acts are usually done in a group setting. This is observable in situations involving televangelists who amass huge crowds. The submergence of the individual into the group, combined with a hypnotic sensation, allows for a cathartic, euphoric experience. Many of Jesus' miraculous acts involved crowds of people or entire towns coming to receive him. The crowd spectacle was necessary to promote the spread of the faith. Euphoria produces a placebo effect that causes people to appear healed despite still remaining sick.
The placebo effect is defined as the phenomenon where one experiences a benefit despite no real treatment having been administered. This is particularly prevalent in the case of televangelists. Desperate people in need of healing come to these so-called miracle workers in order to obtain a cure for their ailment. After being told that a divine power has healed them, the person's belief leads them to feel better despite remaining physically sick.
Ultimately, various cultures throughout the ancient world incorporated or diminished the necessity of the divine in healing. There was a diverse spectrum of beliefs regarding miraculous healing, ranging from the empiricism of the Hippocratics to the syncretism of the Islamic and Christian world. While our perception of miracles has changed drastically from those portrayed in ancient times, we continue to witness seemingly unexplainable acts of recovery. Whether we attribute it to natural causes or the result of faith, perhaps the human body's ability to heal and restore itself against all odds is miraculous in itself.